Hey, Work Positive Nation, how well does the company you work for make your dreams come true? Ever wish they had a dream machine to help you? My guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast wrote the book, The Dream Machine, a leader's guide to creating teams of high performers who achieve extraordinary outcomes. We talk in this episode about how to attract and keep top talent through fulfillment that drives company success. So are you ready to dream a little dream with me?
Welcome to the Work Positive Podcast with your host, executive coach and culture architect, Dr. Joey Fawcett. Discover strategies and tactics that work positive as Dr. Joey talks with industry leaders who create a positive work culture that attracts top talent and reduces team turnover. Discover how you can create a work positive culture that increases productivity and profits. Here's your host, Dr. Joey.
Hey, Work Positive Nation, you ever picked up a Cutco cutlery, right? And like on that amazing piece of filet mignon, right? Knocked it out, put it in your mouth. This is the dude who has made Cutco cutlery famous. And he is my new best friend, Dane Espegard. Dane, welcome to the Work Positive Podcast, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Happy to be here.
Yeah, Dane and I, maybe we're separated at birth because we both are girl dads. His aspiration is like me to be a girl pops one day. And he lives on a little farm with a wife who loves horses as much as mine do. So he has horses and daughters, but no giraffes or lions or bears. Oh my. Okay. All right. Not yet. I actually have bears. We feed them, but they stay away. So that's pretty cool.
No, thank you.
You wrote this book, man, and I absolutely love it. The Dream Machine, a leader's guide to creating teams of high performers who achieve extraordinary outcomes. You hooked me right at the title. Did you come up with the title or did the marketing department? No, don't answer that. The Dream Machine. Tell us what your inspiration is and was for the Dream Machine.
Yeah, so the book is about basically the way that I had built my team within the direct sales field at Cutco and had done it for a little over a decade, and then had some buddies that had written books and said, hey, you need to write a book about what you've been doing. For me personally, my path started from listening to an author named Matthew Kelly. Matthew Kelly has written a ton of different books, but one of them is on dreams in the workplace. And I heard him speak at an event in 2007. And at that event, I made my first ever dreams list, and it was really inspiring in the moment, and then went home, didn't necessarily do a ton with it right away, but then circled back to that material 3-4 years later when I was building my own team from scratch as I moved. And then it's evolved every couple of years. I'll tinker with it and change it a little bit. And that's really what the book is about, is how anybody with low budget, essentially, or not being able to hire somebody specifically for that task, can build a team that's centered around the individual and what's in it for them and how to grow them in the workplace, but also out of the workplace.
So what happens, Dane, when this whole notion of dreams collides with corporate workplace?
That's a great question. It is what I talk about in the book is very counterintuitive to the traditional environment, but everybody's got their opinion on it. I don't know that the only people that are doing what I'm talking about in the book they've already moved away from the traditional way that the workplace is structured. They've seen the writing on the wall. And I think the pandemic really forced businesses to recognize that, to say, hey, the way that we've been doing it isn't going to work anymore. And we all have our own version of what happened. But I think with hey, everybody has to work from home, allowed this wildly different marketplace for great talent, because now somebody in Minneapolis can get hired by a California company and not have to change anything about where they live. And so I think that was the first kind of domino. And then from that, there's been a ton of other additional positive things I think that's come out of it.
Oh, yeah. Amazing things. And to your point, my basic theory is that we're redefining work and what work can be and the meaning of work and how it's more than I owe, so off to work I go, right?
Yep.
But yet somebody listening to this is trapped in a company whose culture is anything but that, and they are I owe. And Dane, there are just so many of them. Quiet quitting. What's that all about? I didn't know you could quit quietly. But I thought it was always obvious, but maybe some people aren't paying attention, right? And then didn't I read about loud quitting or loud resignation or something? Then that whole great resignation thing that's going on. Gen Z is not going to play by the traditional rules of work the way that my generation with the boomers did, certainly not the way my parents did. So the dream machine seems to me to be written for people who have tried corporate or don't want to try corporate, saw their parents try corporate, it didn't work because the divorce rate in my generation is the highest of any previous generation, and drug addiction, things like that are higher in my generation than any other. So we've screwed things up and made a great case study for millennials and Gen Zs to choose a different path, right? So what do you say to someone who is just out of college or just finished an MBA somewhere and is looking for a job or wants a job or got that first job and it's just not what they thought it would be? How can they kindle a flame up under their dream?
So I think there's so many layers to this topic, right? Yes. And when I wrote the book is designed for the team leader, the business owner to restructure in there. We're talking about here the individual. And I think that is the premise of all of this, is the focus should be on the individual. So if I'm talking to somebody fresh out of school that you're talking about in this example, one would be understanding, hey, the first job, the second job that you get, the third job that you get is probably not going to be your passion, is probably not going to be your calling in life. There are so many young people that I need to find my purpose. It's the only way that we find our purpose is by trying a bunch of different things. What I've seen a lot of people do is that they'll be at a job, it doesn't light them up because it's probably not their calling, it's not their whatever, the culture might be a little toxic. And what they do then is they sit and they stew on that and they just say ho hum, like, this is just a lot in life and I'm so bummed out that instead of saying, hey, even if it's not great, let me work my tail off at this organization for a year, 2 years, 3 years, so that I get whatever I can get from this before I move to the next thing. But what I believe in full fulfillment is that I'm at a knife company. I've been there for 23 years. I wasn't put on this earth to work on a knife company. But that's not my calling. So why have I been there for 23 years? Because it fuels me to be able to live the life of my dreams outside of work. I do things in work that engage me. But I think if I'm talking to a younger person, it's, hey, have you ever made a list of 100, 200, 300 things that you'd love to do with your life? Place you want to travel, adventure things, experiences. And if work can be the vehicle for you to live this exceptional life, you're going to bring more passion to what you're doing every day and more engagement, even if that job is temporary. And so that would be my pitch to them, would be turn it around to them and say, hey, this is on you. The way that you show up, energy breeds more energy. If I'm bringing a lot of heat to work because I'm excited about what I'm doing because of what it gets me, that in turn is probably going to lead to a more exciting opportunity on my next step.
Yeah. So fertilize the grass where you are. Exactly. While looking forward to some greener grass that's out there. And so often we allow the work culture, albeit even a toxic one, to define who we are. And we claim that identity for ourselves. And, this is the part they didn't tell me about working. So I just got to put my head down, keep my voice low, and just go do what I'm going to do. How do we as business owners catapult people into understanding that we really do want to tap their dreams and begin to create those extraordinary teams?
So it's one of those things that very rarely ever gets moved to the urgent category of a business owner. And as a result, it just doesn't get done. So I am certain that there are tons of business owners out there that would love for the culture of their organization to shift and change, but they just don't know how. And it's on every quarterly meeting. It's on the agenda to discuss, but it's just not a pressing thing. And in my experience, the fastest way to change the culture is for the leadership themselves to embody what the new culture is. And sometimes that means letting people go that they're going to be the stopper in whatever this shift is going to be. But when I've seen the dreams culture take off in different organizations, it's always when it aligns with the CEO hears me on a podcast or me from a stage and they go, oh, this is great. and they're already talking about the individual and living a great life. And so this just gives them the framework for it. But if an organization has toxic culture, I think a lot of it is, it's not saying, what is our culture? It's asking your team, hey, what's the culture here? Because they're going to tell you what it is. It's not the CEO speak. It's the team members that will tell you what the honest truth is about your team.
Mm-hmm. And that gives you a launch pad then to begin to create a dream culture.
Yes.
Yeah, because we got to know where we're starting. It seems to me that so many cultures are determined by inertia. And this is just where we are, and I'm the owner or I'm the leader. And there's just so much energy behind staying in the path where we are because it's death by 1,000 cuts. Yeah. There's just those little things that we have to do every single day in order to keep the business going. So who really has time to lift their head, look up, and think about a dream culture? So with all that inertia behind it, how do I gain enough awareness to lift my head, look around, and find a better way of creating work for everyone?
I think part of it is what somebody does in their downtime. It's listening to podcasts like yours to just hear different ideas, to say, that's interesting, this is interesting. And you could read it in a book. The thing I love about podcasts is that it's 30 minutes and you get to hear a different topic. And if you like that topic or you like that speaker, you go down that rabbit hole. And so for me, it's more taste testing. You get all these different opportunities, but then it's investigating to say, hey, if we're truly committed in this, we need to dedicate some funds to it. And there probably needs to be a point person who's really going to help us to integrate whatever that is. And that could be something like EOS, or before we started recording, we were talking about some different companies that have framework around that. And even with ours, it's a lot of times the CEO has the interest, but then when we're integrating the culture, we're integrating it through somebody else, their COO, the head of development, HR, somebody who's going to be the point person on that.
Right.
But it's got to be, the CEO has to have the buy-in, right? To say, we need to move in this direction.
Yeah. My friend Lindsay Dowd talks about top-down culture, and that's exactly what she means, is you've got to have the buy-in. Not that the C-suite has to do it all. I personally like to see human capital and human resourcefulness leaders really get in behind it and elevate themselves away from being policy cops or form jockeys and really take on the culture, because they are front and center with the people. They know what their challenges are. They know what's going on with them. So yeah, there's got to be somebody who's that POC, that point of contact, who's giving leadership to this, because everybody's business is nobody's business at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. 100%. And with that too, I think a company that has integrated the dream stuff a couple of years ago that is just such an awesome case study. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it, Malk, M-A-L-K. It's like a dairy alternative. So they make oat milk and almond milk, and they're based here in Texas, but they have just been growing like a rocket ship. And the dreams culture in their organization is phenomenal, because they have, from when somebody is onboarded, they have a make a dreams list. And then they do incentives related to them accomplishing their dreams. So when an employee joins the team, it's not about what you can do for the team. It's about, how are we going to move you forward while you're here for year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And in my experience, if every year somebody's looking at what did they get from working here, and it's not just the money, but it's the money. And then as well, and I had these experiences, and I lost 10 pounds, and whatever, all these different things.
Yeah.
Happier man. To me, that is the difference maker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this artificial separation between personal and professional just doesn't carry water anymore. So that's Malk, M-A-L-K. We put the in the show notes, Work Positive Nation. You'll find the website for Malk so that you can go see who they are, what they do, and all that fun kind of stuff.
The product is great. The product is great.
Oh, okay. All right. So you can get your own Malk, right?
That's right.
I love it. Dane Espegard is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive podcast. Hey, go right now to thedreamsvault.com. It's in the show notes if you're walking the dog or on the Peloton or something, and choose to listen to this podcast instead of somebody screaming at you, faster, go. Somebody was saying, my son-in-law was saying to me the other day, hey, you can put it on your phone while you're walking. And there's this walking thing. I said, I don't want anybody yelling at me while I'm walking. That's my quiet time. Listen to the birds and look at the sunrise and everything. Anyway, the dreams, that's plural, vault.com. It's in the show notes. You can go there and check it out. And you can find out more about how your company can become a dream company. Dane Espegard is my guest. So many business owners today, Dane, you hear it, I hear it. You just can't find good help these days. Right? People don't want to work anymore. Oh, geez, I'm so tired of hearing that. What do you say to someone about best ways to attract top talent?
Yeah, this is like the $1 million question for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Which is how do we get top talent? And I hate to harp on like the sports analogies, but you got to go out and get it. When you think about the best sports teams, think about college, the coaches, they might be great with strategy, but really they're the best recruiters. And they are, I still remember a Nick Saban interview from years ago, and it was like they just won the national championship. And he's, tomorrow I'm flying to whatever, California to meet with a 16-year-old parent, something wild like that. And if a company wants to attract great talent, everybody wants that same talent. So when I think about this, I think number one, am I really clear in what I'm looking for? Or am I just hoping that some great person falls into my lap? And I think
hope is strategy, but I don't know how effective it is, right?
And so many people want to focus on how do I get them instead of focusing on, well, who exactly am I looking for? And I think when we get really crystal clear on how do I define top talent for this role, that gives you part of the answer. And then number two, how aggressive are you in that? Are you sharing with everybody in your network on the exact type of person you're looking for? Hey, we have an opening and I'm looking for a person with this amount of experience that does this and that. Through the power of your network, if somebody's a business owner, I would assume that they can at least get in contact with some of those people. Now, do they get them on their team? That's another story. But I do think being really clear and then being aggressive about outreach is important. If we outsource it, a lot of companies outsource the hiring and they expect to get top talent. It's like, if I know that everything in my organization is better by having top talent, I don't want to. I need to hold that close to the vest. That's one of my mentors ever said. There's a few things you never delegate, and one of them is kissing your wife. And that's what I think about when it comes to attracting great talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You got to know that they're putting that same person in front of 3, 4, 6 other companies too. So how important is it, Dane, to not only be clear about those technical skills and the kind of things that are going to drive business, but those culture fit pieces in top talent?
I think the culture fit is more important because that provides the staying power. And if somebody is a great person, but they're inexperienced, they can learn all that stuff and they can learn it on their own with resources that we connect them with. But I think the culture fit matters so much more than maybe what their resume has stated that they have the competency to do. Because in my experience, top talent is top talent anywhere they go. They could be doing a totally different job. They're still going to be top talent over there. It's the person, not the skills right now that they have. So I would veer more towards, is this person going to fit with who they're working with?
Yeah, because we can teach skills, right? We can get them trained up. So let's say that we've done a great job. We know who we are and how to attract top talent because we know who we're looking for. We were aggressive. We went after them. We have them. Now what? I mean, some companies date hard and then you get married and they just figure it out. They don't even tell you how to get to the bathroom. But the successful companies, the ones who have a work positive culture, those are the ones who really know how to take care of people. So in dream companies, how do we take care of people?
I love that you use the dating marriage reference because I use that often, which is so many people, again, they want to promise all this stuff. They want to get that top talent there. And then they're like, all right, you're top talent. So go do it.
Figure it out.
The best organizations understand that we are always courting our top talent constantly. And my wife and I, in our vows, we took out the portion that says till death do us part. And we added in verbiage around is us both being invested fully in nonstop dating. We track the number of date nights that we have, right? We grow that each year. And so we do that because it's the same philosophy of me keeping my best performer at work, which is, hey, I want frequency and communication. I need to be checking in with how they're doing in their life. If it's top talent, I'm going to assume they're going to figure out how to get great results. And top talent is typically inwardly motivated. They don't need me to dangle a carrot nonstop. So what I feel that the dreams concept, it doesn't have to be dreams. We just found that works. But what dreams speak to is the person. So it's me saying, hey, Dr. Joey, what do you need, right? For you to be really fulfilled at the end of this year, what would be huge wins for you? And then when I check in with my top talent, I'm not saying, hey, how much did you sell? What'd you produce? What about this deadline? What I'm checking in on is, hey, last time we talked about you investing X amount or buying your first property or doing this. How are those things going? And if I keep them constantly motivated about the next thing in their personal life, they have to show up with energy because they're living a very fulfilled, busy life. When I made that shift in our organization, I enjoyed my job a lot more because it was no longer driving certain targets. It was driving them to be a more fulfilled and more accomplished person. So work just had to be part of it.
And oh, by the way, that works with customers and clients as well.
Yeah.
More than a transaction, it's a transformative relationship because you can consult a report and see how the sales are going, right? You don't need that.
Yeah, right.
You got to care about the people. So what are some of the challenges, Dane, that you see companies experiencing today? Let's say, okay, we're gonna create a dream company. What are some of the challenges that are getting in their way?
I think one of the biggest challenges that we all deal with, anybody who has a team, is focus and engagement. And I think in the immediate gratification world that we live in right now, there's a lot of jobs that have monotony as part of the role, right? Sales is one of them where it's, okay, more of these. And so great leadership, part of the job description of leadership is talking about the same thing over and over again, but making it sound new and exciting. So when I think about a challenge that I'm constantly weary of is I need my people to be engaged here, because if they're not, they're so poachable by other recruiters.
Oh boy.
Right. And with the world that we live in now, it's even if somebody's not looking for a job, they're getting approached online. And so they could be having a bad day or a bad whatever, and all of a sudden they get a recruiting message and grass is always greener somewhere else. So it's easy. So I think that focus and engagement on, hey, is their buy-in, if they helped co-create what their objectives are, because everybody is more bought in when they have helped to co-create what that is, instead of just being told, here's what your job is, go do it, make sure that you get this done. And if not, then we're going to have a serious conversation. And that doesn't work anymore. So I think the challenge is engagement and focus.
Yeah, and Gallup's last survey I saw said that 85% of all American workers are disengaged. We just got to pay attention to those things and know, hey, these are people, they have dreams, we're seeking to help them unlock them. Dane Espegard is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive podcast, and you'll find in the show notes thedreamsvault.com. Dane, what are we going to find when we go to that website?
So the Dreams Vault shows just a little bit of what the integration software is for somebody who builds their own dreams list. So individuals can go on there and they can load up all their dreams if they've made a list and put them in there and take notes, set deadlines or target dates. You can archive when you accomplish a dream. And then on the business side, businesses can also utilize that and they can track the dreams of the people on there. So what I was saying with Malk, for instance, they know so far this year, they've had around 30 dreams from their team members accomplished this year. So it's actually a metric that they can track, which is pretty neat. That
is cool. Wow. That's great. So are there resources for us there relative to the Dream Machine book?
So if somebody wants to get the book for free, that's always my giveaway. They can just go to daneespegard.com/free gift. And there'll be a free PDF that they can download of the whole book. And so that's usually where I direct people first. And I wrote the book not holding any punches back. So basically anybody can take the book and go integrate and do their own stuff. The software was just a nice extra thing for somebody to keep organized when it comes to that.
That makes it easy for us, right? Because if I can see it, I can do it and then hold myself accountable with it. I don't have to depend on somebody else browbeat. Did you do your dream today?
That's right. It's meant to be an opt-in, not an expectation. Right?
Exactly. And again, self-motivated, right? So I can go get it myself. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to go to thedreamsvault.com and check that out and see what that looks like. Work Positive Nation always wants to know from my guest, Dane, about one thing. So Dane Espegard, what is one thing, your one thing, that you would encourage Work Positive Nation to start doing today to create a positive work culture?
I would suggest some sort of a journal session for 10 to 15 minutes. And I think with the question of, hey, putting it back on the one thing, what's one thing that if I did in the next 3 months would give me a lot of energy? And that could be taking a trip for a weekend. That could be signing up at a gym. That could be reading a book, just something that is different than what we're doing right now. We like, as humans, we can thrive with doing the same thing over and over again. But when we throw in that extra little, I'm working towards a trip. I always use the example with people of when you went on your last trip, the enjoyment wasn't just the trip. It was the planning of it. It was the anticipation before. It was all of that. And one thing someone can do is ask, what is the thing in the next 3 months that if I were to do would bring me extra joy and excitement?
And I love the focus on 3 months there, because so often big, hairy, audacious goals, 5 years from now, where are you going to be? But 3 months, man, I can see that far, right? And I can get with it. I absolutely love that. So Dane Espegard, here's a personal question. What's on your dream list right now?
My dreams list is up in the 400s right now. So I got a bunch of different ones.
What's hot now?
I would say the one that's coming up, I turned 40 in May.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so on my list was I wanted to see a concert at the Sphere. So I believe my wife and I are going to Vegas to see that new amazing concert venue.
Oh, sweet, sweet. Now, she does know this, or should I send her a link to this podcast so she can?
She does. Last night we got confirmation that Grandma's able to come to town and help with the kids. So it's in the works.
Like there's ever any doubt about that. Hey, Graham, yeah. Yes, I'll come. Yeah. Right. That's awesome. So do you know who you're going to see?
At the Sphere, they only have one band. So I believe it's going to be like at a time, but I think it's Dead and Company, like an old Grateful Dead show, which I'm not even a fan, but I think I'm sure they'll have cool graphics. And
oh, dude, you will be a fan.
I'm sure I will be after
if they're as good as the Grateful Dead. Dane, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. Work Positive Nation, go to thedreamsvault.com right now. And you can go to daneespegard.com, which is in your show notes as well. Hey, he's given his book away. Not that he has to, but that's how committed he is to you creating your own dream list yourself and being able to go out there and do what you were put here to do. Because, hey, let's face it, man, we're getting up close to 8 billion folks running around here. There's only one you. So we want you to be you and to unlock those dreams inside of you so that you can make your unique contribution to the world. Dane, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you and just want the best for you, that amazing wife, right? And those 3 darling girls.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Please share this podcast with your friends who are HR and small business leaders so they can do one thing today to create a positive work culture that increases productivity and profits. I'd like to give you a free Work Positive course just for listening. It's called Something to Talk About, and it's transformed the work conversations of so many people all over the world. Get your free copy when you go to workpositive.today/something to talk about, and you can start transforming your conversations today. Remember, it pays to work positive.